So, I figured since we are getting the new Vanguard, I'll take a little time off from looking at the hacking stuff and take this new ship out for a spin and see what I thought of it. And of course, that's when things pretty much all went to hell. So, any real kind of heavy review of the Vanguard is difficult, if not truthfully impossible, because the ship really is, in the end, it's in flux. The weapon strengths, the shield strengths, the armor values, all of these very important things, the maneuverability, are all up in the air. And it's the same for any other ship in the game. None of this is set in stone. None of this is a given value. It can change 1,000 times. It could change 2 times between now and whenever the game is considered released. The only thing that you can really look at with ships right now is their livability and their usability. And the new and updated Vanguard certainly represents that in my mind. It is a much better ship on the interior than it was before, day and night. I looked around and I really kind of tried to dig in and find some things that I thought, well, this could have been done a little bit better, that could have been done a little bit better. You guys know how I am with this stuff, so it's no real big surprise. But I have to say that I was very, very hard pressed to find things that were, in my mind, unacceptable, or things that would be, very problematic for any user of the ship. The truth is that it really does take into account a lot of the flaws and a lot of the early problems of many other ships. It fixes a lot of these issues that are, sadly present on a lot of ships in Star Citizen. But it shows what's possible when you take these things into account, when you take the time to kind of think things out and not just go, okay, this looks cool, let's sell this, but really let's attack the problem from a practical standpoint. What do players, need to play the game? What do players absolutely have to succeed? And let's give them that. It's not so much about giving players what they want, but really about giving players what they need. The Vanguard is a ship that's really kind of built for Star Citizen. It accounts for the needs that your character is going to have in this universe. It doesn't allow you to carry cargo, but it's not a cargo ship. It's a ship of war. And it allows you to bring your weapons, your armor, all the things that you may need depending on the situation with you. And it also allows you to get around within a solar system fairly quickly. It's not, it doesn't have an extreme amount of range. It's not crazy, but it allows you to kind of pack up a whole bunch of things and say, you know what, I'm not really sure what I'm going to need over the entirety of my gameplay session, but this saves me from having to go back and go, wait, I got to go buy another gun, guys. Wait, I got to go get grenades, or, oh, I forgot, health packs or oxygen pens. It has the space to carry all these things. So you can load it up once and then go through things as you do in the universe. It's a ship that really is kind of built towards the realities of the game. It's not a ship that tries to be everything. It's a ship that says, I'm going to be this thing, and I'm going to do a fairly good job at it. Now, its weapons are a bit of a question mark, and I feel that some of it is reflective of the fact that the ship is not completely finished as we're getting it now. The missiles still seem to be stored externally, which I'm not really sure why that is, and also they weren't working for me. But I would have to kind of go and dig around a little bit to make sure I wasn't making any mistakes. But for me, they weren't working. It takes a hell of a lot of punishment a serious amount of punishment, considering I hopped into this thing and ended up getting dragged into battle with it before I had really even set up most of my keybinds. It did really well. It took an extreme beating. I mean, I got interdicted with Crime Stat 1 by Crusader Security, and by the time I got myself out of there, I had Crime Stat 4 and 4 kills to to justify that. But it held up very, very well, and I didn't really feel at any point like, with so many other ships, sometimes it feels like, oh, I'm taking damage, oh, I'm taking damage, oh, I'm dead. Whereas the Vanguard was like, yeah, you're taking some damage. Yeah, you're taking a little more damage. Yeah, you're taking some damage. Now that could reflect a lot of things. That could reflect changes in armor values, shield values, weapon damage values, anything that could be balanced, up or down depending on what they do with it. But overall, it seemed to be a really solid ship in the state that it was in when I played it on the 3.6 PTU. Now, you can't really put too much stock into its combat performance in the current state of the PTU or in the current state of the persisting universe, because once again, these are things that can change. These are values that can be adjusted upwards, they can be adjusted downwards. It can happen once a week or it can happen once a year. The real core of the Vanguard's combat strength is its adaptability. It's the fact that a Warden can be a Harbinger, can be a Sentinel, can be a Hoplite. It can be whatever you need it to be that day. You can, if you have the Battlefield Upgrade Kit, or if you're allowed to purchase them in the future, which probably, you can build the Vanguard that you need. I've always kind of felt that while I've never been all that hype about the Vanguard Warden, even when I was shitting on this ship for, its flaws, which back in 2.0 and beyond, it really had in spades. Like, it had horrible flaws. But I always held out hope that the Sentinel, which was the E-War variant here on the far right, would be the redeeming, Vanguard. It would be the redeemer of the line. And the fact that, they've now gone to the point of saying, yes, before the Hoplite was its own thing and you couldn't switch to the Hoplite. Now you can switch to the Hoplite. Now you can switch to the Harbinger. Anything and everything is on the table. Well, the Harbinger was always on the table, really, if you had the buck. But I think that was kind of the genius move, was to open up that door and to say any Vanguard can be any other Vanguard. And so even if the Vanguard Warden isn't the best fighter, even if it is somewhat lacking, there's a very strong chance that somewhere within that lineup you're going to find something that it is really, really good at. And honestly, as an E-War platform, I still like it. I really do still like it. Now, one of the other problems, and certainly it's something that I'm kind of illustrating a little bit here, is, originally when I spoke about the Vanguard, when I was kind of, beating up on the Vanguard when it first became flight ready, I pointed out the fact that the Cutlass was a better ship for less than half the price. And it was a better ship. It could fly circles around the Vanguard and it could just pummel it into the ground at will. It was a better ship, and for less than half the price, and it could also carry cargo. There was very little value, apparent in the original Vanguard. But in the intervening time, I think that we've kind of seen that, certainly recently, that Squadron 42, I think, is in some ways incompatible with Star Citizen. The idea of a lot of the fighters in this game, the light and the medium fighters, is they're designed
around the idea of Squadron 42, which is within 2 to 5 minutes, there's always an Idris waiting for you that can repair, rearm, and you can go back and get whatever equipment you need, or, you know, sit in the cafeteria and have a conversation with somebody who's got a really dusty voice and wants to tell you their life story about, you know, when I was growing up back on Alpha Colony, we didn't have a whole lot, but now that I've joined the military, things have really started to look up for me. Anyways, talk to you later, Lieutenant. You know, the ships are built around that kind of a format of a game. Whereas Star Citizen, those facilities aren't always available to you. You can't always just quick 5-minute jump and boom, you're back at home base, rearm, refuel, repair, and back out there. That may not always be available, you know, where you're going. You might have to bring enough ammunition, enough different weapons, armor, things like that along with you. And so even though it may not always be the best fighter, it might just end up being just good enough, but so much better in so many other areas that it ends up being the strongest fighter, just because it's ease of use, its ability to open doors for you as a player. Whereas because of the Squadron 42 constraints that a lot of these medium and light fighters are designed around, they just kind of don't make sense in Star Citizen as much as they used to, you know? And I think that, you know, in a weird way, I think that because, you know, Squadron 42 is kind of built around the idea of it's a carrier-based game, just like the original Wing Commanders, because it's built with those kind of constraints in mind, Star Citizen as a game, the really good ships, the ships that you would really want to have, are the bigger ships. They're the ships like the Freelancer, the Cutlass, the Corsair, the Star Runner, the Vanguard, you know, the Constellation, and on upwards. Those are the ships that seem to open up the most doors for you as a player, that allow you to go the most places and do the most things. Whereas, you know, exploring the universe with some of these other ships, it looks a little bit more daunting than it did originally, certainly over the last year, with changes to the ability for your ship to regenerate its own fuel, quantum, in range, travel time. When you start to think about things on that scale, the less and less the smaller ships make sense in the game, and the more and more ships like this, even though they're not perfect, start to make more sense and start to become desirable. It's, in a weird way, it's a tug of war, and it's something that I've talked about for a few years now when I've been looking at these ships, and I've been kind of saying that this is going in an interesting direction. Are fighters dead, you know, and stuff like that? I used to ask those questions, and now that we're kind of seeing it manifest, it has become a very frequent topic for me to discuss. You know, not only just on YouTube, but privately amongst other Star Citizen players. It's like, I don't know about even owning fighters anymore. I mean, is there a point? Because you don't want to be the guy when everyone says, oh, okay, we're all going out to R-Corp today. You're like, okay, guys, well, I'll see you in half an hour. Have fun without me. Bye. You know? And I think that that's going to be kind of a major thing, you know? It's kind of like, in a weird way, it's kind of like if you were playing WoW during the Burning Crusade days and you were the only one who didn't have a flying mount. It's like, wait up, guys, wait up. And, you know, the Vanguard really just doesn't suffer with those constraints. And I think that, is it the best fighter? No, it isn't. But it's certainly in a place where it's improving. And the room for even greater improvement is clearly visible. So, is it going to be the greatest fighter? No. But I think it's going to be one of the better options out there.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.